Hey guys, welcome back. Better Than a Let's Play episode 33. I'm Enigmus, and today I'm hoping we've set a goal. We've set a goal to button up the exterior of the testificate mega build. Now this is quite an aggressive goal. As you can see, the remaining area that we have to cover is quite large. And I wanted to come up with a plan that was simple enough that I could tackle it without losing my mind, but without being so simple that it kind of cheapens the rest of the build because it's lame. You know what I mean? It's sometimes you can do that with a build, you kind of lose enthusiasm for it towards the end and you throw something together and then you realize that you took a really neat build and ruined it. So I'm trying to avoid that because I haven't lost enthusiasm for the build necessarily. I'm just acutely aware of how much space we have to cover. Now, one of the things that I considered was doing a bunch of standalone structures down in this lower area, tower-like sort of things that would reach up to the underneath of the turbine, but that would have been kind of counterproductive, I think, because what I'm already finding with the structures that I've got on the upper two layers, they're both basically taking up the entire floor, and already it's difficult to get them to merge properly with the areas that the testificates might want to travel through in order to get into them. So the individual towers thing, not really all that feasible, I didn't think. So I decided that it would be easiest to at least start off with a giant wall that would basically finish off the exterior. Like I said, this is the goal for the day, is we want to finish off the exterior so that we can then work on the interior of this lower area, and then we're done. Just like that, we'll be done. But a wall is a wall unless we do something interesting. So what we did is, rather than trying to change the landscape to allow us to build a straight wall, we made a few minor modifications so that we can build sort of this stepped wall. It kind of steps in, you can see there, and then have the wall kind of slope out and up to meet up with the underside of the turbine. That ended up being basically the plan, and then of course once we've got it all roughed in and ready to go, we can break out the micro blocks and kind of change it up so that you get an opportunity to see the smooth contours, nicely detailed without being obnoxious, hopefully. Maybe, and the layers of glass that you're seeing are sort of helping us delineate between the different floors that we're going to have. Now, we're not going to do completely distinct floors because that would be kind of silly again, I think. But we still want to have something for the testificates to stand on. Now, this view here gives you kind of a better profile view of the sides of the little stepped areas going up towards the underside of the turbine, and you can actually see the grating in the front of the turbine there, which goes a little bit farther to showing you just how large this area is that we had to cover up. And so far, I'm actually kind of happy with the way that it's turning out, just because it's got some character to it. It's got a little bit of detail, it's not obnoxious, it's not complicated to build, it's not taking all kinds of crazy materials. I don't have to do a lot of counting and mucking about in between each floor to make sure that things are going to line up properly. So all in all, it was a successful design as far as that goes, but we still have to see how it's going to look with the micro blocks once we get all of that stuff done, because if we can't kind of refine it a little bit, then we're going to be back to square one with we wrecked it. We wrecked the whole damn thing with a lazy build. So after a little bit of effort, just kind of closing up that one side there, we've got basically the whole thing is closed in now. This front side of the structure is now closed in. All of the slimes, all of the monsters, they can't get out anymore. May have been a mistake. We have to live with it. There's nothing we can do. So now it's basically time to look at micro blocks. And one of the things that I wanted to do, I had mentioned this previously with the structures up top, was I wanted to see about adding some sort of contrasting color with micro blocks somehow, just to add a little bit of visual interest. And I decided to do that here with, these are sandstone strips. I have sandstone out the wazoo courtesy of our sand quarry by our central facility. So I decided, rather than just leave it sitting in a chest like I do with all the other sandstone I ever get, cut it into strips and use it as sort of that contrasting color. And I was actually really surprised at the way it turned out, because I liked it, which that was the surprise. I was kind of expecting it to be really not all that great, but it's just that little bit of extra contrast somehow, for me anyways, adds quite a lot to the overall design. And the whole plan basically only works in this lower area. I can't put it in the upper areas because I've got too many micro blocks making things round. What I did, basically what determined whether or not something got the strip treatment, was if it was straight. If it's a straight, like you can see along underside each window, and then the 90-degree angles wrapping around where it steps in, all of that is straight, so we put the micro blocks. Anywhere it's curved with micro blocks, or just kind of wonky with the landscape, we don't put the strips. I don't want a lot of angles with the strips. We can't do that with the upper areas because there's too many angles. Now you can see we're getting the micro blocks in, and I specifically chose this sort of camera angle so you can see the side where the contour is going to be the most evident with the micro blocks. And using it just to, as always, smooth things out a little bit, take away the larger angular sort of transitions you can see underneath the windows and just above the windows as well, where the layers transition. We can get rid of at least the under the windows jagged sort of edge. And overall, as a sort of spur of the moment, we have to figure out something for this disaster, it turned out pretty good. I'm happy with it. I'm still going to be looking at what we can do up top with microblocks. Maybe if we can do something just to add that little bit of contrast and that little bit of visual interest, and we'll be in good shape. But for now, this is kind of a nice little lower level observatory area for the testificates. They can wander around, look out the windows, which they won't. They won't, because what I can report, I can proudly report that the testificates just went absolutely bonkers on one another while we've been doing this building, and now they're all sort of jammed in one end of one of the breeding wings, and there's a good 20 to 30 of them. So they're not struggling in that regard. They're doing a good job of doing like they do on the Discovery Channel, but they're not moving outside of that wing. They're just all jammed in the end of it. So maybe we can do a little bit of persuading a little bit later. Maybe we can do a little bit of mucking about with portals to move them around. For the time being, we still have to get floors in here, so I'm not in an enormous rush to start pushing them around until we've got a place to push them to. Right now, if we put them in the upper areas, the penthouse areas, they just go back through the doors. Every once in a while, one will actually go on his own and take a look around, and he's there for maybe 10 seconds, and then he's back out through the door, hanging out with his pals, making more babbies. And the slimes, you can see them, they're doing the rubber band effect. They're kind of falling through the floor, and then they realize, oops, we're not allowed to fall through the floor. They go back up. It's raining slime inside, because the closed off areas underneath the turbine are full of slimes flopping around, and every time they flop, the blocks underneath rain slime. So when you've got, say, a dozen slimes flopping around all at the same time, it's raining slime all the time. Now this is actually the back side of the structure, the side of the structure that you never get to see. And we had to close this in as well. We can't really call it done if we're making this whole building and we just pretend like the backside isn't there. So the whole idea here was to kind of, as best I can, follow the same concepts as on the front side, at least with the spacing of the windows and the alternating cobblestone stone window stuff, and try and get it to match with the mountain in such a way so that it looks like it makes sense. Because this was kind of a really angular spot on the mountain. It would have been very, very difficult to excavate it so that we could have a uniform structure. It was actually easier to bend the structure to fit the mountain than it would have been to bend the mountain to fit the structure. You can see there's nothing particularly complicated about what we're doing. We're basically just building it up, like say, same spacing between the layers of glass so that when we extend the floors across, everything should line up. And then just kind of building away, same thing. And as always, there's a little bit of time left, a couple minutes. You can watch this going in. Next episode, we'll get a look at the finished exterior of this part of the structure we're looking at now. And then we're going to start on the interior. We're going to give the testificates place to play. That'll be it. And then we'll be done. We'll be moving on to a brand new mod pack. Voting is still open. If you have any ideas for a mod pack you'd like to see me play for the next iteration of this series, let me know in the comments section below. If you have any comments or feedback on the video here, you can leave that below as well. If you want to be notified when I add the next video, you can subscribe to my channel and or follow me on Twitter at Enigmius1 and or on the Google Plus Enigmius1. As always, thank you very much for watching, guys, and take care.